All right, so I'm back. All right, so we're at the looking at the inquiry research project outline where I last left in the week 10 inquiry project update. So I guess this would be part 2 to that in a way for this week. And we're going to talk a little bit about where we should be maybe in the project, or maybe if you're struggling with how to get started, things of that nature. So I just want to kind of like encourage you to really feel like it's okay, especially when you're making your first draft, to go down and just answer these questions in a way. Okay. That's not a bad way to begin. Okay. You think about that your topic introduction and rationale is supposed to be 2 pages. So think about 4 paragraphs, right? So you have 1 paragraph to kind of provide an attention getter that allows you to segue into introducing the topic of the research paper, right? Then introduce the topic and explain how it's relevant. So your attention getter could be something along the line. It could be an important quote. It could be a question that kind of gets your audience to think about. This is also an opportunity if you're, say, approaching it more from the narrative aspects. If we think about our 2 sample papers from, was it a week and a half ago or so, where I think it was, I can't remember if it was Emma or Lydia as our sample students. One had, really taken that opening, right, where there was in italics, kind of like to try to get your attention into your topic. So you could start with a story or narrative in some way too, right? To get somebody's attention, you could start with a question and then kind of like play around with maybe what the potential answers could be. You could talk about maybe a very earth-shattering or new to you, or an astounding or significant statistic, right? Did you know that 8 out of 10 people, blah, 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 ages, da, 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 are into this thing, or are affected by this thing, or experience this thing, that thing being your topic, right? And then kind of qualify and say what that means, right? Why is that significant? Then you can segue into, so that's like your first paragraph. Then your second paragraph is introduce the topic and explain how it is relevant. Why is it important? Now we can kind of get more into the meat and potatoes of its significance and importance, not only just for you, but maybe for the community. Why should people care about it? This is kind of like our second hook, right? We kind of get them hooked in with like an attention getter and say, oh, okay, that's very interesting. And then now we say, okay, and here's why you should care about it. Refer to sources, provide evidence to support that it is in fact relevant. So this is where you might bring in one of your sources to talk about that level of importance and significance and relevance. And this is you might be able to. So if you're, let's say, COED, for example, you could quote a quote unquote non-scholarly source, right? But it's still credible, right? And then provide other info that the reader may need to know about the topic in general to understand the rest of the paper, right? So you know kind of what's coming down, right? You know what's going to be coming next. You know you've got these 3 or 4 sources. You're going to make these 3 or 4 points that you're going to make when you get to the second part of the body paragraphs, and you're going to talk about the results kind of in a way of your findings. What did you discover? So then you talk about those, and then you can kind of talk about why you took on this research project, right, for your 4th paragraph. So A, first paragraph. B, think about your second paragraph. C, your 3rd paragraph. D, your 4th paragraph. Okay. And just write them like that. That's okay. All right. That's a really great way to start. It's the best way to start, because at least you have something down. Then we can think about transitions, and we can think about flow, right, if you will, right? And remember we talked about that, like the needle and thread example that I use, right, of it just kind of seamlessly going from one paragraph to the next paragraph. But we got to get the information there, then we can kind of piece it together. And then you'll have your body paragraphs, right? So you're going to think about your topic headings. You're going to have your introduction, 4 paragraphs, and then you're going to have research process as your next heading or subheading. All right. How'd you find your sources? What specific database did you use? Right now, you're going to a paragraph, talk about that. My small paragraph, maybe, right? Was researching this topic difficult? What problems did you encounter while finding sources? How did you solve them? Right. So here we are, just going to kind of methodically go down through each one of these. And that's what I would recommend to kind of to get started. So you have 4 paragraphs, right, for the research process. Then your research findings probably going to be a little bit longer, and you'll break those up by how you found them. And we'll pick this up and discuss this in our next video, the body paragraphs and more on the research findings. All right. See you in a minute. Bye.